Sean Balash or Balash. Please correct me. Okay. And Mary Claire Musenik. And I will add other people as they come in.
Sean is the phone bridge.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. I keep making that mistake.
No
Sorry.
problem.
All right. Before we get started with other matters, our former secretary has resigned from her position at CARD and from this committee. So I wanted to find out if anyone else would be willing to volunteer to take our minutes. And I will add that I'm trying to get Otter set up if IT will allow me my own personal Otter, which will take a transcript of everything said and would make it easier for whoever takes over. But I wasn't able to figure it out today. I need like a block of time. I got it connected to Zoom, but not this. So Google Meets.
Who set up the meeting in Google Meet? The organizer.
I did. Well, I did for Keith.
Okay. You know what? I think you can hit record, and there would be a recording of it for this meeting, and you could send it to Kimberly, and then she could use that recording to write the notes from.
They do a recording from the meeting, and I upload it right after the meeting.
I'm not really good at watching a video, so if someone's willing to physically take notes, the thing about Otter is it actually takes notes, and then you can say, oh, I want to pick this piece or that piece, because I'm more of a reading person than... anyways, anyone willing to take on that role, at least for now?
Oops, did do calendar.
I can help with now until we get Otter in place.
Okay, that's great. I really appreciate it. So I will send you the roll call. The next item on the agenda, and I'm not sure if the agenda went out.
Yes, it did.
Okay. I sought legal advice, which is not on the agenda, but I want to put it towards the beginning, on adding committee members who are not District Diversity and Equity Committee members. So I was interested in adding some people who are interested in our work on the subcommittee and who have expertise that I think would be helpful, but are not appointed members of the DDEC. And I don't have the response yet, but I wanted to bring that up to the subcommittee and find out if it's allowed, but I also want to find out if the subcommittee would feel comfortable with that. An example would be Autumn Queels, who has experience working in a school setting and has a lot of knowledge as a mental health provider towards students and young people on some of the issues that we're dealing with, and just have her add her input from her experience, and she would like to contribute. She has been attending as a community member observing. Good morning. But I just wanted to explore that possibility because she asked if she could join. So I've asked the legal department, but to bring Emmy up to speed, I asked the legal department, and now I'm asking you if the subcommittee would be open to adding subcommittee members who are not appointed members of DDEC. People who are interested and want to help us with our work and have some background in it. Anyway, I don't have an answer on the legal part, but I just wondered how everybody felt about that, because I won't even pursue it if you all don't want to do it.
I have a question.
Sure.
Go ahead, Emmy. You were before me.
I have no idea if that's a legal thing we can do, but I do think having some experts in here that or anyone who has more background on training, maybe someone from even other districts, like school districts in Florida that have different trainings. Like, I definitely think that that's something that would benefit our subcommittee and benefit the DDEC as we bring our reports back to them.
Mary Claire?
And so, okay, so I'm not a member of your committee, your subcommittee, and neither
You're
is
the
Anna.
staff, yes.
So I'm trying to do, and Sue, I see Sue on here, and Sean is district. So how many, Carrie and Kimberly and Emmy, I see you're on, and that other phone, that's a phone bridge, that's district as well, right?
Yes.
So how many are in the subcommittee, and do you have enough of a quorum? Do you need a quorum for this subcommittee, or how does that work? Like, I don't know what your total numbers are for this subcommittee. I just make sure.
It's very small. Sometimes the chair of DDEC joins us, but she's not an official member. We've lost one member, and I think this is it.
Okay. I just wasn't sure if there was some people who were appointed to or volunteered to the subcommittee and they're not here right now. So I wanted just to make sure you were okay making your decisions and moving forward. And
I'm sorry, I didn't say we have a, from now on, I will say we have a quorum. We have 2 members that had to drop off because of other commitments. So at this point, I think our committee is here. I have spoken with the chair of DDEC about opening it up to the general DDEC to find out if anyone else is interested in joining that may not have spoken up when we first talked about this subcommittee. And she told me that everyone else on the main committee is too busy and not to bother them. So, at this time, it's us. Okay, the next item, which I think is very important, is creating a rubric for evaluating trainings or for trainings.
Kimberly, I did just have one comment on the other people.
Yes.
Bringing on. I was just wondering if, first of all, yes, we do have to find out legally if that's okay, but I'm wondering too if I don't know how that will work being on a subcommittee, but maybe even in a, participating as public comments as well could be.
The problem is public comments are on this subcommittee are 2 minutes, and this person would not have voting power, but would just have the ability to add to conversation as needed in our discussion. But anytime you have somebody who's not an official member that's appointed, they don't vote. And the reason I floated this idea is I've been on a number of boards where they allow committee members of committees to not be board members, but those people don't have voting power. They're just able to provide input. Like if you've been an executive director who doesn't have voting power, but has a lot of information. Okay. So I wanted to float that idea. Okay. And it doesn't sound like everybody's that comfortable with it, so I may just drop it. I just wanted to
Well, it might bring some other expertise and knowledge, just expand that a little bit, which might be helpful, since the subcommittee is small.
And the other thing I'm thinking is I listen to everything. I don't necessarily agree with everything I ever hear, and so I proceed listening, but bringing, deciding based on my own. So I thought it may, it won't hurt to hear another perspective or more information, and then we can decide whether we want to follow it or listen to it or not.
Agreed.
Okay. Now, the work for today is creating a rubric for evaluating trainings. And then our homework will be to go back to the few trainings that we have listened to and apply the rubric to them if everyone is willing to do that. Okay. I'm not there to create a whiteboard, but we can take notes on ideas. And I'll just say we brainstorm it first. What would we like to see on the rubric?
If you like, we do have an option here on Google Meets to create a Jamboard so that you don't have to write it all down and everyone can participate in it.
Fantastic.
I can create one if you like, and then share it with everyone here.
Thank you.
Okay.
Also, Kimberly, I know I don't see Janina there, but Janina Simmons, wasn't it mentioned that maybe she has something as manager of diversity and equity? That there might be some rubric that is already created in some manner or fashion, so you didn't have to be starting from scratch. I'm not sure, but I thought that was mentioned a couple meetings ago. So that might be something you could inquire to her about.
She should be here momentarily.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
She'll be in just a minute.
Okay. So that would be the other, she may have something, so you hate to, I
agree.
This makes it a little bit easier for you all.
Okay. While we wait for her, I'm going to, the police training update is that, I wrote down the name. I've been jumping around to different people. I was advised to start with the captain, and we have, the chief, and we have a captain who handles training, and I just haven't connected with him. But with everyone's permission, once I get a list, I can send it to Susan and have her send it out to us so that when we come back to the next meeting, we could have reviewed it and be prepared to talk about which trainings we want to discuss first in that area. And I have not connected with the Jason Foundation. That's on me because this past month has just been really busy, but it's calming down because of the summer. So even if we have, Janina should be here soon. Does anybody have any thoughts? Or I know Anna had raised her hand, or Anna. How do you prefer? I'm terrible at.
It's okay. Anna is great.
Okay.
I just thought because you were looking for a whiteboard, we have that option to have a Jamboard and use the Jamboard if you need to.
Okay.
So that, for those who need a seat.
We might need to do that. Emmy?
So I'm jumping around a little bit, but I just have a few questions. Like, first question is, what trainings are teachers going to be receiving this coming school year?
Yeah, that's good.
Maybe we can review those next. I know there's a lot, but if teachers are doing them in preschool week or whatever they have to do before the next school year, we can absolutely handle that.
Right.
I know before we talked about bullying trainings, I haven't gotten anywhere with that. My follow-up questions were never answered, so I don't know how else we can get that information, but just seeing what bullying intervention, bullying prevention trainings include.
Mm-hmm.
That's my number one priority based on the testimony I hear from my constituents.
Based on my clientele as well, I agree.
Yeah. So, and then another thing is following up with the suicide prevention trainings. I know we're trying to reach out to the Jason Foundation, but there's got to be something else we can do within our own district. School board member Alexandria Ayala spoke about it at the last school board meeting. She brought it up. So I don't know, maybe district staff has an update on that. What we've identified some of the issues there. So what is the next step?
Okay, so the next step, yes, you brought up you'd like some additional information to be provided in that training. And I know that you have feedback for Jason Foundation. Now it's an older training, so that's good. The last couple meetings ago, I had given you the Florida DOE website with the approved suicide prevention trainings, and you all were going to look through those and see if there's a different one that you would like better. We'll certainly take that recommendation. And then, there was talk about looking outside of Florida DOE to see if there was something in addition that you would recommend. And we're happy to take those recommendations. So that's kind of where you ended up with that. For us, our mandatory training this year is youth mental health first aid. It's required by statute. We are required to get all of our school staff trained in that. We do not, remember I had spoken to you about that. We do have a grant, so we weren't able to, under the grant, pay for you all to go to classes. But they have classes in the community that they offer for free. It's called Mental Health First Aid. So there's a number of classes because we a few years ago had trained the trainers and paid for the training for the community to provide the training. So you can certainly take those courses through there and see what the curriculum is. We did inquire with National Council to see if you could get the PowerPoint of the curriculum so you could review it, and it's copyrighted, so that wasn't allowed. The only way you can see the curriculum is if you actually take the course. So we did inquire and do all of that. So that's our required course, and it's required by statute. So we're really focusing on being compliant with the state with our mental health awareness training for all school staff this year. So that's what we're going to be doing as a department.
Okay, so then I don't know if this was officially recorded, but and I know once we make a rubric, we'll have more measurable ways to talk about this, but we did review Axon Facts, and I think the consensus was that Axon Facts is much more up to date and much more inclusive than the Jason Foundation. So one recommendation could be for the Palm Beach County School District to not use the Jason Foundation trainings until they are updated, and to use, we'll have to figure out a way to review youth mental health first aid, but Axon Facts is at least mentioning LGBTQ identities, at least doing that.
Okay. So what you all need to do as a group is to finish your review, and then you can send me an email or send something through your committee, okay? Because you'll bring it to the committee, your bit larger committee, and I guess they will vote on it and say this is our recommendation. So you all have to, like, Emmy, I appreciate that recommendation. That's great. It's all good, but I think you kind of have to come to consensus as a committee that this is what you all are recommending, that as we consider training moving forward, that you really liked this training versus another training, and as a committee you recommend a particular training moving forward, and that's wonderful. It just has to be kind of a little more,
I think we need to put the rubric into effect, and then use the rubric with whatever is available on the state website and everything we've already reviewed, which is on the state website, I believe. And then we could make a recommendation and present the rubrics to support it. And I know we had high reviews for Axon Facts, so what we could do is, before the next meeting, fill out the rubric that we determined to use, and then we can make a recommendation regarding that. After checking the state website and making sure we've covered everything there. I just did a quick search, and the Jewish Family Services offers the mental health first aid, and they have a contact person. I took it when it was offered by the school district, Safe Schools, a few years ago. I understand it's been updated somewhat, but the Alpert Jewish Family and Children's Service staff is offering it, and I have that contact. Do we want to reach out and try to see if we can take that? Do you all have time this summer?
Is that like a in-person course? Is it online? Does it cost money?
I think it sounds like they're doing it as a community service, although I would have to call and check. And yes, it is in person, and I wouldn't be able to do it until August, but we don't have a meeting next month. So We could try to do it in early August if we schedule it, and then discuss it at the August meeting.
Okay.
Or we could wait until later if August is really crazy for all of your work.
No, let's do it. I want to review it before the school.
Let me just put it out there that this one is not an option for us. We're required to provide this training. We don't get to pick. So this one is mandated by the state. And they chose the curriculum, and they chose the organization that provided the curriculum, and they mandated that we give this curriculum. So I just want to make sure that we don't have any wiggle room here. What you could do is, if once you review the curriculum, if you had issues with it, then you would send it up to Florida DOE and the governor, because they're the ones who they're the ones who are mandating this particular curriculum. So I don't have any wiggle room here. We are mandated to do this, and it's a compliance piece. So I just don't want you to feel like there was some impact in. There's other things that the district has choices in and can modify and add slides and there's things we can add in and take out, but this one's set.
I'm sorry, Emmy. I think it's important to review everything, because if we say there's a gap, but there isn't, because it was filled by what everybody was mandated to learn. One of the big things, I think our purpose is to identify where there are gaps. Nobody received training on yellow, and so we know that yellow is missing, but part of our ability to do that would be to know everything that was. I know it's a huge undertaking, but if there's something that everybody has to receive that's mandated, it may be useful, even if it's just one or a couple of us to come back and report these are the things that were covered. I think it's useful to us not only to say we don't like this, but to know what is being done and say, hey, you're missing this component that we think is important based on the needs of our constituencies.
That's great clarification. That certainly makes sense. Thank you.
Emmy?
That was basically what I was going to say. Like, we maybe have to require this training, but if there is a huge gap, we could supplement.
And I just don't want to call out a gap that was resolved by that.
Right, exactly, that too.
Okay. And I'm looking, there's nobody new in the room. Do we just want to then brainstorm on, we have two options. I don't think we have any trainings we were supposed to review. If we did, I missed it because I was going to check over the minutes. And go ahead, Carrie.
Well, we were reviewing the suicide one that Dr. Scott did. That was the one that we were looking at this past time.
I thought that was the case. I was kind of holding off till we did the rubric, and I'm wondering if it makes sense to do any brainstorming now and then check the existing rubric against it, or if, wait, Emmy?
Let me raise my hand. Okay, wait. First, I want to back up and make sure we have the contract for the youth mental health first aid course.
Okay.
Maybe put it in the chat. I'm happy to call.
Okay, thanks.
If you send the link in the chat or whatever. And then two, I also was unsure about, I couldn't find what training I was supposed to review, and I didn't review anything this past month. So what were we supposed to do? I'm sorry.
Carrie offered the card training that was offered by Dr. Scott, and we're going to ask Carrie to put that link in again if she doesn't mind.
And do we have someone taking minutes now? Okay, got it.
Yeah, I asked Carrie to do it this time. I was trying to get Otter set up. Otter is software that you can attach to and it will do a transcript, not just a video, but a transcript that, for me, that would be easier to like scan through. Oh, this is an important point. Oh, and this one is too, as opposed to watching a video. I personally don't catch as much on the video as reading it, and it's quicker for me to read it. Okay, I'm putting down the information about mental health first aid. Go ahead, Carrie.
I'm going to, I'm not going to put the link in the chat. I'm going to send it through Susan. I think that might be easier because I think that's what happened last time, and I think that's where some of the confusion came out. So,
yeah, I think you're right. What's the name of the organization? The other thing about the one at Jewish Family Services, and I will ask Dr. Musenik, is the general mental health first aid. Do you happen to know how much of a variance it is from the youth?
It's very little. It's basically the same course. It's my understanding. I can double check with my staff, but it's very little. The difference is they're training teachers on how to make that connection for students to find the resources. With the adults, it's like, these are the resources. This is how you find help. The youth mental health first aid is, how to be that warm handoff and that bridge to help students find resources when they see there's a need.
Okay. So this
kind of to help them, because sometimes kids come and say things to adults and they're not really sure what to do with that information or how to handle it. So it gives them some good skills on how you can be a listening adult, calm, and be able to like get them to the help that they need and the resources. And you teach this course, so please.
Sure. So I'm not familiar with mental health first aid. I know that in the youth mental health first aid, there are scenarios. I am in stories about three adolescents. So I'm not sure if those stories are in the mental health first aid training. And these were adolescents. So I'm not sure if they talk about adults in the mental health first aid training. And I know.
Oh, go ahead.
And I know one of the stories in the youth mental health first aid training is about a student who had suicidal ideation and talks about transitioning. So that would be that is good information for everyone to have, but I just don't know if that information's in the mental health first aid.
I'm going to loop back to something I mentioned before, and the person who wanted to join the subcommittee works directly with kids who have suicidal ideation. And so that was one of the reasons I was thinking, if it was possible and everybody was open to it, that person would be able to speak for more than 2 minutes at times, and maybe even be a resource where we have questions. What do you think about this? Or what resources could you refer us to about that type of thing. We have Dr. Musenik too, but just having different, because this person has to treat them once they're identified in the school setting, or not identified, and it's just the parents bring it to the attention, but it may be helpful.
Well, just as a background, just so you know, Anna is a licensed clinical social worker, and she oversees our crisis assessment, prevention, and education teams that respond to all the students who are having suicidal ideation on our school campuses. So she is the supervisor over our school teams that responds to the possible Baker Acts, and she's clinically licensed. And she has an extensive background in this. Her previous work, she worked in a hospital. That's why I have her.
Anna, I apologize. Anna, I apologize. I didn't know all of that. And
It's okay.
Everyone in the group, I'm not trying to step on any toes.
No, it's all right. I just want to let you know. I just wanted to let you know that's exactly why she's in the position she is, and why I asked her to be with this group to assist. Is because we stack our teams with licensed clinical people. We're looking for best practices and the best of the best so that we can respond to our kids. So I just don't, and not only that, we have the advantage of working with expertise in the school system is the volume of kids that we see. Sometimes if you're in private practice, you see a little bit of this and a little bit of that. When you're in the school system, you see, you don't see one child with autism spectrum disorder. You see hundreds of them. And so you see the differences. You don't see one child with suicidal ideation. You see it across the gamut from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade and what that looks like. So that is what I will always, as a proponent for the public schools and for our staff that works in the public schools, the breadth of knowledge and experience they get with such a diverse population, you cannot replace by someone who's at a university or somebody who is in private practice. And I say that with the best intentions. I have my own private practice in the past. Anna has had a private practice. So it's nothing about that. It's about the volume and the experience and the diversity that we run across every day that really is a foundation of our experience in our profession. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate that clarification. On my screen, there's a teeny tiny figure that just came in and I cannot make out other than it's a figure. May I ask who just joined us?
It's Janina, I think.
Oh, hi. Okay. I just wanted to be sure.
And Janina is here and Pete Stewart is here.
Wonderful. Welcome. Janina, we had a question earlier before you arrived. Would you be able to show us the rubric that is used in selecting trainings? We would like to use a rubric as we review the different trainings, and we don't necessarily want to reinvent the wheel if there's something out there already.
Trainings for what? I'm so confused. I'm sorry. Refresh my memory.
We're looking at trainings that all teachers and staff are required to receive throughout the year, and our purpose is to determine, are there any gaps in things that our constituencies, it would be important in trying to serve our constituencies, and also we're critiquing the trainings to see in some cases they're kind of outdated and not including current information and trends and problems. But a lot of it is finding gaps. So we make sure that the school district staff is fully prepared for the things that they are dealing with.
Are you speaking of compliance training?
I'm going to ask Mary Claire.
Hi, Janina, it's Mary Claire. Yeah. I think what they're looking for is they're looking to evaluate a large number of trainings across a standardized rubric so they can see that it has various components, especially as it relates to diversity, equity, and some of our marginalized populations. And we were thinking that you might have some sort of matrix in which you evaluate programming or materials or something that the district may have. Maybe you don't have it, maybe it's over in teaching and learning, but something where they don't have to create a matrix from scratch, that there is a basis, that these are the things that we look for in a curriculum or a program, and we want to make sure that they reach a minimum standard and they include the various interests that this group has. Do you have any kind of matrix in which you judge programming or anything against, especially as it relates to diversity and equity?
So I would probably have to reach out to professional growth, professional development, Carlene Millen's department to ask about that, because I don't have anything in my department regarding anything like that. We don't push out professional development, and she does have equity partners in her department. So I will reach out to Carlene Millen for something like that. Will you put that in a note? And see, and if I can't find it from Carlene Millen, I will try to find it from somewhere else. But yeah, okay.
Carlene Millen was in charge of this group in the past, so
correct.
many of us who've been on for a long time know her.
Yeah.
Okay, so at this point, we have a choice to wait until we get that or try to brainstorm now. We could get that information and send it out to everyone for a chance to review and then come back and do it, or we could try to play around with something now. What do people want to do?
I mean, it would be great to have it. I want to see if the rubric does include all of the things that we want and the trainings just are, some things are just slipping through the cracks, or if what we're concerned about just isn't on the rubric.
Exactly. I think that we could ask for the rubric to be sent to us, sent to Susan, and then sent to us over the next month. And then come back to the next meeting prepared with what we would, any changes or additions we would want to make. We could review the FAU, just watch it in the meantime, unless we want to watch it with the rubric in hand. Or we could just try to create something now.
Maybe we should just try to create something and then we'll request the rubric and compare the two.
Okay, so then I think we're gonna get that virtual whiteboard going.
Oh.
So
Go ahead, Carrie. I'm sorry, Carrie, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I was either thinking, I know either create a rubric or maybe have key points that we want to make sure that might be addressed in any rubric that we do. If
can I say something?
Of course.
What if there is no rubric?
I think that Carrie and Emmy kind of addressed that by saying, let's go ahead and start working on something.
Okay.
And if there is a rubric before the next, hopefully we'll get it before the next.
I'm going to email her now, but I'm just putting it out there. I'm not even sure if that is something that is in place. But if there is no rubric, and the trainings you're talking about specifically compliance trainings, or are you talking about any trainings that are related to professional development for teachers? What trainings are you speaking of?
Because there are millions of trainings that are probably available, what we are looking at now are the required trainings. So I'm not sure if that.
Yeah, those are the compliance trainings.
Okay.
Okay.
And then I'm also, just so you know, reaching out to the school district police and trying, because they're under, the decisions are made separately, and trying to get their list as well, because I think the members of our group share a lot of concerns as to the type of training they receive. And I know that I've received some input from officers that they may not be getting everything that we would like them to have. So we might have school staff that really understands these things, and not all the police officers who are stationed at the schools, especially now that we've just made a new contract to bring in new ones. We want to make sure that when they walk into a school, they know how to work with children, and they know how to work with children with all the different challenges or traits that we are representing. Yeah. Go ahead.
I would just say larger picture here to kind of reestablish why we made this subcommittee and why we're focused on trainings is because so many times when we identify issues in the DDEC or just within our communities, it always comes back to a lack of training. It always comes back to a lack of education for the teachers or staff on like, it always comes back to that. So that's what we're trying to work on, is like, how can we make these trainings better? How can we add what needs to be included that it might not be required by the state, but it needs to be happening anyway. So that's why we're here, and that's why we're doing this. So for the rubric, I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind, since we're the DDEC subcommittee, is like, simply a list of all of our like affinity groups, and are they being addressed adequately in these trainings? It could be any training, but they, you know, and some maybe it's not a priority, but for, I'll just speak on the LGBTQ community because that's what I know best. They need the areas that we need is like bullying prevention and intervention, suicide prevention and mental health. Those are the two main things because those the LGBTQ community is disproportionately affected in those two areas. So maybe a rubric can kind of have our different groups, and then we score how adequately they're being served by the training.
I think we can have something more standardized that we're all reviewing, that will have one component. Does it address the needs of different groups? One thing that I was concerned about with our subcommittee, and I tried to raise in the general DDEC, is we are representing students with disabilities and we are representing LGBTQ plus, but we are not representing, there needs to be cultural competencies for the Latinx and Black communities, both Caribbean, Black, and then immigrants. We don't have anyone representing those communities, and we're not even completely intersectional here. We're all, let's be frank, white women. And so I'm going to renew my request to DEC to add some more members who will provide us with a broader perspective so that they will know what we might be missing that I wouldn't know at least. And so I think that's one component. But we also want to look for probably some other, and then we want a separate list of topics that we want to make sure are covered in the training. But for each training on a different topic, like we don't want every training to be on bullying and suicide, but we want to make sure that in the training list that those are covered well. But what in each training do we want to make sure is there? And where's the hand? I don't see the hand, but someone raised it.
It was me.
Okay.
I completely agree. But I also hear what Charmaine was saying, where you don't want it to get like hung up on quorum stuff. But so I'm thinking once we do the legwork of kind of like getting everything situated here, it will be easier to be like, okay, here's the training, here's the rubric. Can you evaluate this? And then use that. Like right now we're trying to figure out the structure of how this is going to work. I definitely feel uncomfortable by the fact that we are just like white women here trying to do this, but I do think that we can put in the work to like get at least this started, and then
absolutely, I agree. We should go ahead and do this, but I'm saying as we move forward and are evaluating things, I would feel more comfortable adding at least one representative. I mean, from the DDEC, we have a lot of representatives of certain communities, and at least getting one representative from each of those, even if they don't join the committee, to provide their input.
Totally. So can we do the whiteboard thing? Because in my head, I'm picturing like a grid where it's like all the different groups on one side and then all the different criteria on the top. So like, is it like updated, reflecting current issues facing our communities? That's like one column that would get a number. And then the next column would be, I don't know, whatever else. Does it like address how teachers should like interface with that community or whatever? I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there. But in my head,
what does it provide skills to handle whatever that issue is, maybe?
Or resources, like if, I don't know.
Kimberly, do you have access to opening a whiteboard? Since you're the lead, I just want to make sure you have that icon in the bottom right where you see, I don't know if you see this, but a triangle and a square and a circle on the bottom right.
Breakout rooms, polls, Q&A, and
whiteboarding. You click on whiteboarding and it should say there, start a new whiteboard.
Okay.
And then you click on that and then you'll start a new whiteboard, and that link will be added, shared, and then it would only give that access to those people. That's it.
Okay, wait, what did I just do?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, wait.
There you go. And now we have a Jamboard. So if you go to, like I told her, you can go to, there it is. She shared a Jamboard. And if you want to find it, let's say if you missed the link or something happens to you in the chat, you can always go to the bottom right, click on the shapes there, and then you'll see the link to the whiteboard. So there are currently 2 there. So I think one was mine by mistake. So what I'll do is it says you need access. So.
Okay.
Right. So
how do I get rid of one?
All right. So what I'll do is there's one that says district equity. So go to the first link, not the second. And then I guess we can like later on look at how to delete that. So go to the first Jamboard. And I already see that there are some people,
I'm up on one, but I don't know if it's the first or second.
That you won't be able to access the second one. So
okay, then right I have one on top.
Kimberly, yes, okay. You're there. You're in that one.
Okay.
So everyone has a little, if you look, there is a little section there, and you see the little animals there next to it, so you can access it.
So they have a pen.
Yes.
It's like an eraser.
Yes.
Oh, do we have to handwrite it? Okay.
You can, all right, so I just send. So there is an option there for you, Kimberly, since you opened it, click on share. You see the little share button?
Yeah.
And then go where it says anyone with the link and click on that.
Okay.
And you should be able to, hold on a second. You should be able to share it, but as that they can edit it, because we can't edit it because you created it.
Okay.
Oh, there's multiple here now.
Access. Anyone with link. Got it. Does everyone now? Okay, Susan's there.
You see that? So you also, because you're in the district, right?
Me? No, I'm outside.
Oh, you're outside. So if you go to your Jamboard, let me create one. Can I create one? Because
sure,
then I can just
quickly. Like, mine go away then? I think I did.
Yes. So let me create one right now. Start a new Jamboard. I'm gonna put Anna's Jamboard. Okay.
Okay.
I want everyone to. Everyone who's on here will be able to see it.
Okay.
Okay. So let me do this now.
No, it says I need access.
I know, I'm gonna change it right now.
Okay, no problem.
Let me just change it so that you always have a final.
Thank you.
You're welcome. There you go, and then I'll go into I do this a lot. You can tell I'm very clear to let you know. I do this a lot. All right, so let's do the Jamboards. For some reason it's a lag in my, taking a while to load for some reason. If my internet's slow.
No problem.
Okay.
One just appeared in my chat, but it says Sue shared it at 9:22.
Okay, so let me just, I have it here. I am now going to make sure that I'm able to share. No, for some reason it's not letting. For some reason there's a lag here. Hold on 1 second. I don't know if something's going on with the internet here. All right. Yeah, there's something going on with this. There's something going on with the whiteboards. For some reason, I'm not able to share it or open it or anything like that. I'm not even getting the requests. So there's probably something going on with the Jamboard option right now with Google Meets.
Okay.
So I apologize. I usually am able to do that this way. So
not a problem. Don't apologize. I know in Zoom how to like just share screen, and sometimes I've had a Word document that I've just like typed on, but I don't know how to do that here. Wait, present now? Should I try that?
Sure, if you want to, you can share it if you have options and you're able to see the tools on the left, but you're the only person who can actually add to that whiteboard and no one else can contribute to it. So again, let me just see if I can do something here.
But then Kimberly could type in our suggestions.
Yes, she could do that.
So go back here and okay, wait, no, that's not what I want. I want to present window. Okay.
Unfortunately,
does that work?
Yes, it does work.
Okay. I can't see anyone, so I'm going to need you all to jump up. And I'm going to say, excuse my typing. Let's make that bigger. We already said different. I could, I guess, create on left hand rows, correct? Is that what? Wait. Back. Two, and then
did you want to just list the things you want to do and then have it in a Likert type scale on the right hand side, so that way people can just evaluate, did it meet expectations, or agree, not agree, somewhat agree, neutral, totally disagree, you know, like have a scale on the right hand side?
You mean across the top?
No, so your list of the way you have it now, the list of what you wanted to evaluate could be going down on one side, and then right across from each one there would be a Likert type scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Rate how well did this meet expectations for whatever that particular line item was. Does that make sense? So 1 would be not at all, 2 would be somewhat agree, not agree, whatever. You develop the scale 1 through 5, but so you put all your items you want to look at, and then you check off, did it meet those expectations in any of those areas?
We could make one of the items to evaluate. Did it cover the issues of LGBTQ+? Did it cover the issues of students with disabilities? And I would make the rows really thick so we can add notes. So
that'd be great. And then that way everybody's going to have, maybe some it addressed a lot and others nope, not at all, or and you can just put it in on whatever scale you put in, 1 through 5, 1 through 3, whatever you want to do, but you can evaluate every single line item that you put down on that list.
Okay, do we want to do 1, 2, 3, or 1 through 3, 1 through 5, 1 through 10?
I would just suggest an odd number so that you can have a neutral number in the middle.
Okay. What do you all think?
Sometimes it's good to have the 5 because you have not at all, you have the 2 extremes, and then you have the 2 somewhats, and then you have the neutral. That's why I suggest that. But
yeah.
So 5. Wait, repeat that, please.
1 to 5, scale 1 to 5.
Right. But what were the different things you were saying?
It depends on how you want to word it. It could be like, totally agree to totally disagree, somewhat disagree, and neutral, something like that.
All right.
And we can put the verbiage in afterwards once you know what you're looking at, because you would want it to stay all the same.
Of course. Yeah. I was just trying to write down all the suggestions.
Yeah, totally agree, somewhat agree, neutral, somewhat disagree, totally disagree.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm sorry, I got kicked out and then I just cut back on, so I apologize. Are you, number 1, are you talking about more of a Likert scale where you're putting strongly agreed and
Yes.
all the way to strongly
Yes.
disagreed
Likert
and everything in
scale,
between?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have that in the rubric numbers. I have rating scale, and that's going to go across the top and the different columns. And then we're going to have a column for notes. And we're thinking 1 through 5, totally agree. You probably can't see me. I'm using my hands a lot. Totally agree, and then agree, and then neutral, and then agree, disagree, and strongly disagree. And I said totally, I guess. I don't know, whatever.
We can change it, yeah.
So as far as the list of what we want to evaluate, you know what? I'll make this sub. Okay.
So those could be a lot of the things that Emmy was talking about.
Right.
Making that list, even the, relevant research, all our different, groups of that we're represented, that we represent, and, all that.
Mm.
I can't see, so just go ahead and speak out.
Oh, it's so minor. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
It's LGBTQ.
Oh, I'm sorry, that was a typo.
It's okay.
Thank you.
And
I am a horrible typist.
you're doing great.
Yeah, you're right.
We should have ELL students, I guess, on there.
Yeah.
And I guess you're going through it, so I'll wait.
Latinx, Black, API, and ELL. Maybe we can even go with and there are probably other categories, which over time we can probably figure out. And then research, supporting, training, up to date, reflecting current trends. And what are some other factors?
There was something about a national, coming from like a national org.
Okay.
Being important.
Yeah, especially now, I think. Do we want to say whether it's approved by the, not that that's something we want to rate, but do we want to put it in the, like, yes or no? And in fact, do we want to, across the top, have columns that say yes or no when there's a question like that?
Well, it would just, the yes or no would be a 1 or a 5.
Yeah, I guess so. So, what was I thinking? Would we want to say is one of the state, what's, they have a state list? Or whether it's not, because that might be important when we're trying to suggest it.
Well, I'm wondering if, as prior to actually doing this rubric and completing it when we're looking at trainings, the top part of that would have information like what was the title of the training, who's actually evaluating it, the date, is this required training, is this on the Florida, like we could add all of that stuff up top there, before we even start the evaluation of that particular training. And it might be good to have that information, like who's evaluating it and what organization are you with, the date of that, and then, like you said, adding in comments or opportunities for comments in any of these sections.
I think the comments should be in the actual graph, not graph, chart, or provide name of training source, who is evaluating an organization constituencies, date of review. How about provide name of training source and date training was developed, if it's available. Who is evaluating an organization constituencies, date of review. And then do we want to, at the bottom, have we recommend or?
Not recommend.
Yeah.
I think we should have a score. It's like a numbered scoring system. And then above would be recommend, like above a certain number would be recommended.
Yeah, and we can put that range on the bottom.
Yeah.
Since there's a lull in the conversation for a minute, I just wanted to let you know in the chat, I put another resource in there that my team was able to provide, that they train trainers for mental health first aid. So they may have some more information about, I don't know if there's a specific course for youth mental health first aid that they may provide that you could check into.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, absolutely.
I will have to get to the chat in a little bit, and if I miss it, I'll ask someone to send it to me.
No problem. It's in there, and so you can get to it before you close it out. You have the information.
Okay, I'm going back and forth. Am I driving people crazy? I'm trying to see what other topics or things do we want to add to the what we want to evaluate list. How the training represents concerns of different students.
I guess, sorry, so sorry. Like how applicable it is. Like one of the things that I liked about, or like how like consumable the information is for teachers, like Axon Facts compared to Jason Foundation, where Jason Foundation is they're just talking at you, or Axon Facts is like there's quizzes, there's like questions they're asking you throughout. It was like broken down more in like little chunks.
Like relatability, or maybe are you talking about rating the training itself, like how engaging it was, or like that kind of thing? Or?
Okay.
Kind of, yeah.
How's the information presented? That's more of a thing on the top, maybe, that we say, because it may be a video, it may be in person, that type of thing. So let me put that at the top. Wait, not top, but top of page. Okay. Okay, now how user-friendly?
I would say the word would be like dynamic or digestible or
engaging,
interactive, engaging.
So rate the training itself.
Can I add? Like, I'm wondering if you're talking about like a target audience, because I think if you have a training that's geared towards counselors, it's one thing. If you have a training geared towards paras, it's another thing. A training geared towards teachers, so maybe like identifying who the target audience is of the training.
Okay, so we'll put that in that top of page thing.
Okay.
And then how user-friendly or engage. I think engaging would be a separate thing, because something could be easy but boring. Or, just like, oh God, I have to get through this versus, okay, target audience. Now going back, how user-friendly is the training? Understandable is the material as presented. Does that make sense? And then how engaging is the training? Interactive, would that be part of engaging?
Yes.
Do we want to say whether there's a test at the end?
I think that is included in engaging and interactive.
Well, some of them will have little tests as you go along, but some will at the end make sure you learned what you needed to learn.
Engaging, interactive, and effective.
Okay.
Maybe.
How do we gauge effective though?
Is it our perception though of that when we took it?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just it.
Is the
But-
training
so
effective?
something that I think
And do we want to put at the top what the goals of the training are?
Yeah.
a big thing that I think is important with trainings is that, you know, not just to give a training, but the follow-up piece to something.
Okay.
But I don't know how we would, you know, this is just, we're only reviewing the trainings. We don't always know what the follow-up to something is.
We could
yeah.
ask.
So I just think that piece is really critical. Like, how is somebody then taking the information that we're giving them, and how are they utilizing that now? You know, or have they utilized it, or have they found it helpful? And going back, you know, sometime after and doing that. But it's something hard, I think, for us to do in the scope of what I think this subcommittee is doing. But I just think sometimes that piece is very important as well. I don't know how we'd put it in here. But.
Yeah. I don't know if that would go in the training rubric. It should be, the rubric should be like, you get the training, you get the rubric, and then I think those questions of like follow-up would be more like what we're discussing in our committee. And I get what you're saying, though. It is really important. Can I share my screen and show you kind of what I was thinking for the format, like the structure, Kimberly?
Absolutely.
Like, this is so bare bones, but I just wanted to like show.
Sure. I save this as.
Can you see this?
Not yet. I'm trying to get off, but.
All right. You want me to zoom in?
Okay, let me go back here.
Is that easier to see? Should I do it all in bold?
Oh, okay. Perfect. I didn't know we both could.
Yeah, so this is kind of what I was thinking for just the structure. Like, we have all of those criteria on the top, the affinity groups on the rows, so that, like,
And
how
then you
can
put the
I?
numbers,
Sorry, what?
and then you put 1 through 5 and you have a key.
Yeah.
And at the very top, you still have all the information.
Yes, like this is, yeah, all of the information at the top. Yes, absolutely. But it's like, how can I evaluate if a training is reflecting the Black community? Like, I don't know. Like someone from that community would. Just like I know my LGBTQ community best, and like you know about students with disabilities best. So my idea is like, so we would assign a row to one person, or, you know, a group of people can do it, and then you take the average maybe. But I would say, okay, is this up to date? I strongly disagree. That gets a 1. Is it research-based? Yes, okay, it's research-based, but the research is, I don't know, whatever, 4. And so I just like put all of my scores in here, and then at the end, I total this up. And then
Right.
And then when everybody has that filled in, we total this column, and that's the final score.
I
So
would
that
still have a column for comments for each thing.
Yeah.
So you can kind of explain, well, if we do it this way, I don't know how. Well, I guess we could put comments in their general comments.
We can, this is just to kind of show you the structure. Like it should be fleshed out, absolutely. But like, just as a scoring system is kind of what I had in my head.
I kind of hesitate. I mean, I would be able to recognize at least some, like, does it mention LGBTQ issues? Now, how well it does, I mean, especially since we have a limited group, I don't think we should just say we have to have a representative of each group in order to rate these things. I mean, hopefully you would notice if they talk about how to deal with students with disabilities. Now, as far as we could have a separate rating or a separate discussion that we can add a rating from the representative of the group. But I don't think it's going to be helpful if we don't cover anything except our particular group.
Kimberly, it's okay. I know you can't see me. It's Mary Claire. I just want to jump in. I think this is great. I just have a couple comments before I need to jump off to another meeting. One is kind of think from the perspective that you just reviewed the Jason Foundation. They did mention students with disabilities. They had 1 or 2 slides on ESE and the associated disabilities. But one of the comments was that it really didn't delve into students with autism spectrum disorder. So that would be where the comments would come in. You might rate it a 3 or whatever you're doing on your rubric, but the comments, like it covered other groups, so maybe it left out a particular group. The same thing with our LGBTQ. It was mentioned in the Jason Foundation as well, but there was a comment that transgender youth were really not highlighted, and that's a population that is really impacted by suicide. So that's where those comments, and because they did what, going by this rubric, it did talk about those different areas, but it was minus the area that you really thought might be impactful for a subgroup. So that's where those comments come in and may be really helpful. So that's I just want to add that in to hopefully help you all.
There's also a possibility that instead of rating them separately, and I don't know if this is a good idea or not, but instead of rating them separately, we have a discussion and kind of have a group rating? Or do you think that we would have such disparate opinions? But that way we could have somebody hopefully address the concerns of different populations so that we could kind of discuss it. So I might have said, oh, it's adequate for Black students, but if we have a discussion ahead of time before we put the rating down and we find out the concerns of that community, then, but I don't know if we want to do it all independently or have a discussion and rate it. And I don't know if it's valid to have a discussion, if it's, considered valid, but it might be helpful instead of having only, Emmy only talk about LGBTQ because she may have insight into other things.
Well, this is where if you all viewed something and did your independent ratings, then you came together in this subcommittee, and then you had kind of your grand rating, a clean slate where everybody made their comments, and then you would rate it as a group, and then at the subcommittee has a rating for each of the trainings, and then you would bring it you would have to reach consensus. You each have your areas that are important to you. You would have to reach consensus, and then you would take those recommendations that you brought together, and that would be what was forwarded. So I think it's definitely beneficial to do it individually, but then bring your comments together, and then you put the comments on one document, and you have to reach a consensus on the ratings.
What do you all
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that makes sense, yeah. I did just want to point out we only have about 9 minutes, so I didn't know if...
Right. I can give, or we can give these documents to Susan. Did we want to add anything to the rubric, the training rubric? Okay, we have list of what we want to, we have how the training represents the concerns of different populations, how the training represents the concerns. Okay, that's more of that. Research, what is the research supporting the training, whether it's up to date, reflecting current trends and concerns, whether it's coming from nationally recognized organization or team. Does it provide teachers or staff with skills and resources? And we might not, or we might even want to separate those out. How user-friendly is the training? Is the material as presented understandable? How engaging is the training? Is it interactive? Does it include testing to confirm understanding? And I'm not sure if we split those up. is the training effective at reaching its goals, and the adequacy of follow-up, which we may or may not be able to assess. And then,
Kimberly, one more thing.
Yeah.
Like, what about ease of implementation?
Okay,
Because
good.
If it's just a video, it's one thing. But if you're trying to do it across the district and you find out after the fact that it's not going to be easily implemented, then that may be a serious factor to consider.
Absolutely, I agree. It just happened. They do. Okay. Why is it doing that? Oh well. At least the content is there.
Yes.
So we can send this out to everybody. I will get it to Susan, and Emmy, please get yours to Susan. And then I'm going to, does anyone else have something to add to this list for today?
Should we look it over what you send and then bring back to the next meeting?
That's what my suggestion was going to be, but I didn't know if anyone wanted to add something today. So my suggestion is give it to Susan. She'll send it out and we can consider it and think of anything that's missing or anything we want to change, and then put it all together, and then start to use it. And I am going to suggest that if no one else has anything to discuss right now, that we that I will entertain a motion to adjourn so we can have a few moments to like go to the bathroom or whatever before our next meeting. And I can't see who is
It's me. It's Emmy. I just have one thing before we do that. I think before the next meeting, especially since we have 2 months, we can we have this rubric outline, use it for the Jason Foundation trainings we already did, and I think going through that practice will help us see what's missing from the rubric. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Let me look at your design again. Let me see something, because I had a question.
Oh.
Wait, where am I?
I stopped
Okay,
sharing my screen.
Okay, you had the different groups and then the different questions. I'm wondering if we're going to end up with a gigantic, really long one, and if we want to do the questions and then the groups across the top.
Okay,
or is that what you did? I don't recall.
I'll play around with it, Kimberly. I'll send it. That was just like my whiteboard.
Oh, absolutely. I was just thinking, because we're going to end up needing, we can.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Switch it up. I'll take that. I'll edit it. I'll put in what you actually wrote in there and see if that will work as a format. But that it's just an idea and open to other ideas.
We'll send it all out.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask if anyone wants to make a motion to adjourn. Oh, Carrie, go ahead.
And I'm going to send the link to the ASD and suicide training, so that way people can review that one as well for the next time. I think everybody wanted to see that. So
okay, great.
Yep.
Thank you. Did someone else put up their hand?
That was me by accident, sorry.
Okay. I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, anyone opposed? Thank you.
All right, see y'all in 3 minutes.
Sure. Do we sign out now and then go back in? Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye, guys. Have a good one.
Yes.
You too.